like it? How about this one?
That I didn't see coming.
Been a while since we did one of these shows, but we're back. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of Game On. Today is Monday, March 21st, 2016. Big gap in there. I'm your host for tonight, Trueflight. Here with me tonight is a bunch of special guests. We're going to be talking about a brand new board game called the Daedalus Sentence that is right on Kickstarter right now. And we'll get in and talk to that in just a minute. If you're interested in being on the show, or you have any games or topics you'd like to see us cover, or you just want to get in touch with me, you can do so in a few ways. You can follow me on Twitter, it's Trueflight_EQ2, where I post my personal thoughts as well as updates on the show. You can also find me on Board Game Geek under the username Ender02. Trying to get that switched over without having to make a new account, but I haven't had any luck yet. And you can also check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/users/trueflights with an S. Post game reviews, gameplay videos, and episodes of my podcast up there, as well as other stuff. So check that out. Anyway, we'll get right into our interviews. I'm joined here today by Bart, Tom, and Ian from Cripplefish Games, and Ralph from Eagle-Gryphon Games. Bart, Tom, and Ian are the designers and developers of the Daedalus Sentence, and Ralph is a publisher of the game. You guys want to introduce yourselves and say hi?
Hi, good evening.
Bart. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. Great to be with everybody today.
And guess this one would be for the developer guys. I'm not sure which one of you want to start off here. It's kind of hard to go pick one of you, so you guys can decide amongst yourselves. But tell us a little bit about Cripplefish Games and how it came to be.
Oh, that's a funny story. We were invited by Bart, who was organizing board game meetings on a weekly basis every Friday, I believe. Bart, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
Yeah, and Ian and myself went to it and played a couple of games. And then Ian turned to me and said, maybe we should just try and make our own board game. And that's when it all went downhill. We met up shortly after, like 2 weeks after brainstorming a couple of ideas. We definitely had in mind a circular board with rotating rings set in a prison. But the original prototype totally differed from what it eventually came to be. So we got together on 2 weekly basis or something like that, brainstormed about it, and then Ian and Bart went on a ski trip together once, and they could really totally brainstorm about the rules. We made a prototype. We went to Spiel twice, 2012 and 2014, to present our Daedalus Sentence prototype to publishers. And eventually we just signed with Eagle-Gryphon. And that's where we are today.
And you kind of answered my next question in that one. I was going to say, where did the idea for Daedalus Sentence come from, and how long did it take to get from its original idea to where it was today?
Well, it took quite a long time. We really took about 4 years to completely perfect the game. As we said, the idea for a prison game was formed very early. But then, we knew it's going to be a circular board, but we didn't really have any rules yet. We just knew it has to be circular, it has to have rotating rings. And as Tom said, during our ski trip, I pitched it to Bart. And we started brainstorming, and then the basic rule set came out. We did a lot of play testing, and also after we signed a publishing deal with Eagle-Gryphon, also they helped us a lot with fine-tuning the rules even further, pushing us to the limit of what is humanly possible. and in the end,
and beyond.
Well, yeah, indeed, sometimes. The initial manual, I think, Bart, it was 4 or 5 pages, and now we're at the 25-page manual. Not saying that it got more complex, but it got more detailed. We wanted to make sure that there are no thanks Tom for your ringtone.
No problem.
Great. We wanted to be able that there are no holes anywhere in the rules. Which I believe is the case now. Yeah, let's see when it comes out. But I'm quite sure that the game is quite solid at the moment.
We also added
What was
a
the
lot
question?
of graphics. We also added a lot of graphics into the rules, examples of play, and just the things you need to see in a manual. So that expanded it to some degree as well. It's a very nice glossy manual.
I love examples in rule books. They come in so handy. I've had so many that were text only, and then you come up with all these different situations that aren't covered. So that's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere in one of your posts or on the website that originally it started out as a steampunk themed game.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then it evolved into a sci-fi.
Yeah, we went to... Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
So there is a misconception, I think, on our website a bit that we went to the publishers. Indeed, we presented the steampunk idea, and they all were they were a bit against it. But it was not due to the steampunk. It was because we said that it was the theme was situated in a post-World War II communistic Stalin-esque environment, and it was that they didn't want to have that World War Russian theme in it. So it was not really the steampunk, but more the
political idea behind it.
Yeah, the political, which was for us, it was just wanted to have a theme linked to the game. We always thought it probably might change if we have a publisher. We always said, if you don't like the story, we can change it. That's the easiest thing to change. The rules and the rotating board is key here in our game idea, the story. So we actually came up with 5 different stories, and then we decided which one it would be. So it became the space station one in the end.
Which makes the guards all the more horrific too. So the backstory is quite gruesome, and the escape is very important. So it raised the stakes in some ways. So we were very happy with the environment and the artwork that we got for this, because it just really brings the game alive.
Yeah, and I believe it was also a time where space horror was very in, and it just worked.
Sci-fi has always been a thing that I've been interested in, so the theme fits really well for me. I love the way that everything came together. Let's switch up gears a little bit and talk about the amazing board. I've seen some pictures of the prototypes and you guys holding it at one point, and you don't get a feel until you see that picture of how truly massive this thing is.
And that's going to be deceptive, and that's one of the things that was probably where we spent the most time and effort and money on the game. Obviously, the game that they had that was made out of this rosin was massive and heavy, and there's no way we could ship it. There's no way you could build it. It just did not lend itself to mass production. But we have some very clever people we work with in the factories that we deal with, and we came up with it's still a plastic board, but it is orders of magnitude lighter. It's much cleaner, and so it probably won't feel it and look as massive as that thing does. But once you put the tiles and everything on it, the location tiles, it looks spectacular, and it does what it needs to do in terms of rotating the rings and flipping the pieces as you discover them. So we're very happy with the result. So there's almost a anticlimactic about it, because people expect this big massive thing, but that's not what it's going to be. It's light and practical, and so it won't be a heavy box, so that saves on shipping. I mean, it's just so many different things that it solves. So we're really happy that we went the extra mile and spent the time we did to get that right.
Yeah, if we kept the original size, you couldn't fit it in any closet. You'd need a second garage or something.
There was also something that the publishers mentioned when we pitched the idea at Essen, that they liked the idea, most of them did, but they instantly said that they couldn't produce that kind of board. So
and then
stopped.
we went to Eagle-Gryphon then, and we said, none of the other publishers can make it. And that, we saw a twinkle in Rick's eyes saying, but we can do it. He was really, we actually pushed his buttons a bit.
Well, we actually have a record with that. One of the other games I was involved with the Kickstarter, and in fact, I was the production manager for the whole project from soup to nuts, was Baseball Highlights 2045. And there were many publishers that told Mike Fitzgerald, there's no way we can do a baseball game, and it's a 2-player game. And we looked at it and said, oh my God, this is a great game. And it's become a huge hit. It's a huge hit with non-baseball fans because it's set in the future and all of that. But that's one of the things about going to and finding the right publisher that fits you and what you need to do. And that's one of the beautiful things about Kickstarter, is it gives us the opportunity where we can take the financial risk along with backers to bring new game designers and games to light that never would have made it. And Rick is really big about that. So, kudos to him for making that happen in this case again.
It's also something you mentioned with the bigger publishers. They have a plan. They work out marketing. They have target audiences. They can say, oh, we have something that looks like an escape game already planned for Q4 next year, so we won't be able to put your game in it. And that's something completely different with a publisher that looks at every game separately and not looks at it as a plan for making sales all the way.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one of the things I'm working on is a philosophy statement, and I'll go ahead and preview it here first. But part of our philosophy is that we want to make games with great components, with great quality, and with new and upcoming designers and great gameplay. So, when we hit it right, that's fantastic. And we're quite well known for the boxes in our games with their inserts that are just fantastic. The high quality of all of our components. If you look at games like The Gallerist and the new Vinhos Deluxe that's coming, Empire's Age of Discovery, and many, many, many others that we've done in the last couple of years, what we're known for is high production quality. But this means that we can't afford to quite do the normal distribution model either, because the margins are so low that we'd have to make so many games we just can't afford it with the margins that we have financially to be able to afford to do huge print runs. So that's why we do more limited print runs of some of these types of games, because we've really put the money into it, and so we have to sell it for better prices. Now, Kickstarter is much better market for it than through distribution. We're still able to offer it at a very nice discount to backers, but it's not the huge discount the distribution asks and requires. So there, in a nutshell, is you kind of have what Rick's vision is he loves doing games. We don't make a lot of money at it. We have been in business over 10 years. We do pay our staff, which is less than 10, a modest salary. And we do continue to be able to bring these great games out. And that's living the dream for us. We aren't in it to make a lot of money, because there's not a lot of money in the niche hobby market. You got to break out into the big market to do that, and that's very rare.
So back onto features and things of the game, the thing that really caught my eye is the multiple ways you can play. And they have a 1 to 4 player versus the game system itself, kind of a co-op, or the 2 to 5 player where somebody can take control of the station itself. You guys want to talk about that?
I'll leave that one to William.
Okay.
For who? For me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Bart, whatever.
Yeah, Bart, you take it.
Okay. So at first we started with purely cooperative game. Because it was also pretty popular at the time. We enjoyed playing Forbidden Island. I have to think of the English titles and Pandemic games like that, Space Alert. But I know it's not popular with everyone. And then we thought of the game as it is scripted by the Theseus device in the game, which handles all the actions of the guards and the rotating board, that it would be an idea to put a player in that role and manually set out how the board reacts. So you get a competitive edge and the co-op experience without having to add much extra rules or different components. So that's why we added that, to keep the competitive aspect also in the game.
And can this does play solo too, right? I'm spacing on this. Do we have a solo version of it, or is it? Yeah, that's what I thought.
It is possible. Yeah.
And,
so you
and
can
what
play
we found,
1 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 to 4. So what we found too is having games that can go from 1 to 5 and reasonably so, not tacked on, is a huge plus. There's a huge solitaire market out there, and the ability to play the game solitaire is fantastic. Then adding the Hive Commander with the 2 to 4 against 1 also works very well. So yeah, the guys hit the notes. And then I don't think you guys have talked about your difficulty enhancers too, because there's 7 different levels of difficulty you can add into the game.
That was actually the next thing on my list, was about the difficulty enhancers to change things up and keep it fresh, as well as the station itself changing every game.
Yeah, you do have the random layout, which we wanted from the beginning. And also, you learn how to play the game. So we saw it also during playtests. At first, you have to get to know the rules. You're glad to escape even for the first time after the fifth attempt or something. And then you can spice it up. You can make it more and more difficult. But still, it can be very deceiving. You start out, everything seems to be fine. You get overconfident, and then suddenly the board gets you. And that's something we also wanted, that we could cater to different difficulty levels, because you have players who just want to play it casually with family, and you also have die-hard gamers who want to check out every aspect of the game and try to have a speed run or something like that with 4 people, and we cater to that as well with the concept.
There's also a couple of original rules that we made into a difficulty enhancer, because there was a time when the game was just too brutal for normal players. So we calmed it down a little bit.
Right. And the difficulty enhancers include things like silence requirements at certain times, timed sections of the game, or the time of the game overall. So there's a lot of different ways that it makes it more difficult. Hidden cards versus open cards, things like that.
And it really adds to the atmosphere that you're really prisoners who are trying to escape. So at certain times you cannot talk to each other when guards are patrolling near you. You can only speak during specific time windows when you can perform your actions. So it's really fun to then very quickly try to make up a tactic together and then go for it before the time runs out. So yeah, it's cool to first do it without difficulty enhancers, like Bart says, to get to know the game. But then when you start adding them, then it's when the real fun starts.
Yeah, another cool thing is we were developing an app that you can use during the game, and where you have a good overview of the difficulty enhancers, like a built-in timer or a certain amount of seconds where you can play around. Stuff like that, and you can download it for free.
Yeah, it's also something we're still looking at, to add the rounds where you have to be silent into the game. As to where we'll try to use the microphone of your smartphone or tablet to check for noise, and we can let the guards notice it or something like that to add to the atmosphere. But still
those I
didn't
didn't know about. I did have the app on the stuff I wanted to talk about. That's a little farther down though. But some interesting features there that I didn't know it had. The other thing I wanted to ask here was how is Daedalus Sentence different or similar to other games out there, if there's anything really similar enough to compare?
Well, we took the point action system from several games like Forbidden Island and I guess Panic Station. That was something we were really appealed to. So we borrowed that aspect from several games. The rotating rings is just something we came up with. We didn't really have inspiration for it or something, or didn't borrow it from any other game. Apparently there are some similar games, but we didn't really know about them.
But the mechanic that we have is, I believe it's quite unique. There are indeed some rotating or circular boards, but it doesn't work like the ones. They don't have a mechanic that you can, that, how do you say that there is always a different map or something. They just have
exactly
circles, or they cannot rotate. But we have it all. So.
And I'll also say too, one of the really nice things is that it really is simplicity itself, the way the board works. There's nothing to break. There's no cogs or gears that can get hung up or anything like that. It's not like that. It's sliding the cardboard pieces in the circular rings, but it makes it easy and simple to do that. And so it's a conveyance for the board rather than any type of mechanical thing that will get in the way.
Exactly.
And one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is the fact that there's no stretch goals listed on the Kickstarter. And there is a possibility maybe of seeing some, because there is a section down in the retailer section where it does talk about retailer copies not getting those Kickstarter bonuses. But at the same time, there aren't any listed. And I saw one of you guys posted in the comments on the Kickstarter campaign itself about why. Can you tell us what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, definitely. We did talk about stretch goals and stuff like that, but we didn't see it contribute anything to the game. For us, the game is good as it is. That's basically all there is to it. We feel we provide a lot of game for the money.
Right.
Yeah, for example,
we felt there was no way you wanted to take out anything and make it a stretch goal. I mean, that's not the way we operate either. Sorry, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. It's just you often see stretch goals where you can decide upon the name of the characters or have your own picture included, stuff like that, and that wouldn't add to the game. And as we said, for like example, we could have made the app a stretch goal, the iOS or Android app, but we decided to include everything we got. So also the competitive mode, stuff like that, we included everything that we had lying. Even optional tiles, they're included. We could have added them as a stretch goal, but we had it lying out there, so why don't add it from the beginning?
Exactly.
And yeah, and we felt the same way, that, hey, why not present this simply and honestly for what it is without taking away anything and adding it back in. Just say, here's what it is. And yes, our boilerplate policy says that because we do a lot of Kickstarters. So when we do have stretch goals, that is true. But in this case, we're pretty clear we're not going to have any stretch goals for this. It is complete as it is. Now, that's not to say that we haven't come up with one little idea. It's not going to be a stretch goal, but we do want the people to know who want stretch goals that we're listening and responding. But because we feel strongly in this case that everything should come as part of the price that it is, as is, we're not really going to do stretch goals for this Kickstarter.
Which I completely agree. A lot of the things you see for stretch goals on projects looks like stuff they've already developed and it's already in there anyway, and they're just kind of using it as bait to get people to pledge more.
Exactly. Yeah. We felt exactly the same way. And people seem to be used to it anyway. But
well, let's face it, Kickstarter is evolving. And, some of the things that they did early on are almost, they were great. And I don't say there's anything dishonest about it, but somehow now it starts to feel like, really, honestly, is that something that shouldn't have been included already? And so you get in all these back and forth with people. And in this case, it's like, it's just so clear. This game, for all the reasons that they've talked about, needed the difficulty enhancers. That's part of the game. The Hive Commander, that's part of the game. The changeable board, that's part of the game. So we said, yeah, let's do it without. Let's make a very reasonable pledge price. It's got a fairly high MSRP. It's going to be a limited run. This is your best chance to get the game at a great price, and everything's included. So, from the get-go. And we also set, a very reasonable goal. We've already reached it in just over 24 hours. So we're very happy with how this is all coming together, because it's a beautiful game, a beautiful production, and we think people are really going to enjoy it when they get it.
And on the same similar note there, a few people have concerned or expressed concern over the high MSRP that's mentioned on there. I think a copy of the game through the Kickstarter is $95.
Correct.
And then it mentions in the notes that I think it's going to be $149 at retail.
Correct.
And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the size of the board itself and how complicated it is, plus the number of components as well.
It's certainly the quality components that we use, but also when you see the board, you're not going to think massive and big and complex. But in order to get there, the different molds and models and testing and everything we had to go through, there's a lot of sunk cost in that, in the artwork, and in the quality components that we use. So all of those things together drive up that price. So it's people need to understand that games don't just come, oh, here's the game, and you just make it, and it's all perfect. There was a lot of development time, a lot of development effort on the part of the factories, the creation of the various molds, and then finding the right one, the molds for the player figures and guards. All of those things are sunk costs that you have to recoup as part of the price of the game. So, because it's for that individual game. So that's really where the cost comes in an all-encompassing look. But if you think about the distribution model in the U.S. and how huge a cost they get off of that to distribute the game, we'd prefer to do a limited print run, still give a very nice margin to the backers through Kickstarter. As I said, Kickstarter is evolving, and then do a limited print run where you can still get the game, but it's not going to be at this great deal that you can get it for now.
Which is another thing I totally agree with. No complaints there on my end.
Yeah, we find a lot of people do like that, and we may not be for everybody. I mean, we're saying we're doing the high end version of games, and a lot of people respond to that, and some don't, and that's fine. That's why we have a market.
One other good thing is, as another question here for Ralph, is the shipping and everything seems very reasonable compared to some other Kickstarters I've backed recently. And it lists on there that the game's going to be 8 pounds in total, which I guess there's a lot of cards, a lot of cardboard components, so that adds up. But definitely a reasonable price for shipping for what it is. And you also offer that refund guarantee that you have listed on there?
Yes. Yeah, the shipping weight is, includes, packing materials and things like that as well. So the game on your shelf won't be 8 pounds. We don't know exactly what it will be, but we have a reasonable estimate of what it's going to be along with packing materials. And so that's where you get the shipping costs coming in, because you ship by weight and distance, right? So, and country. So that's how that stuff is figured. And we've gotten more and more sophisticated about helping people understand that shipping is not postage. Postage is, what you have to stick on it to get it from one place to another. But shipping is getting it from the factory to the warehouse to the distribution points, and then from the distribution points to the consumers. And there's drayage costs, there's packing costs, there's labor costs, there's all these things. It doesn't come free. It's got to be built in somewhere. And we have partnered with a lot of different companies like Spielschmiede, GeoChicks, Philibert, and Fire on Board Brazil, and other places where they're doing distribution for us. So they're buying a number of the games from us at a good price so that they can ship them out to their customers that are going to their sites to order them. So we do that in conjunction with the Kickstarter, and that way we can service many more people in the world at a much more reasonable rate.
I don't want to name by name, but there's a previous Kickstarter that just wrapped up that I backed from another big name company, and other than their U.S. shipping, which is about the same, their international shipping is probably double what you guys are charging to the other various countries that are listed here. So definitely reasonable on that end.
Yeah, people don't realize just how expensive shipping, not just postage, shipping is overall. It's something we struggle with every Kickstarter. Each one is a unique challenge, but through Kickstarter, one of the things that has helped us is it's opened up many more parts of the world to us. We've now got partners in Australia. We got I should mention the Games Capital in Australia because they've been wonderful for us as well, and Estevium in Great Britain and Booster. The Board Game Guru, I think, is one of the stores that's helped. So we have a lot of people that have partnered with us, and it's just made it work a lot better. But that's what you get with a publisher that's been around for a little longer. I don't know what people do that do their own Kickstarters, because trying to fulfill around the world, they're going to get eaten alive if they don't be very careful and know what they're doing. It's not easy, and it's taken us years.
And we hit on this one earlier, but I'd like to talk more about the Tabletopia and the Daedalus Sentence app. Some of the features that it includes. You said you had a working prototype of it that you were checking out earlier before the show we talked about.
Right. So Bart, why don't you handle the app? And then I'll talk about Tabletopia.
Yeah, so basically the app assists in the different difficulty settings. So you get to use a game timer you can configure. For example, I want to finish this game in an hour as a challenge. You have different round timers that can be randomized. You have 3 dice that are included in the game, but with the app, they get rolled automatically during each round. So it saves you a bit on downtime in the game. Ian and Tom also added some background music to which sounds great, which is played during the game rounds. You get a summary at the end with which round timings you achieved, so you can have a kind of personal ranking system. And we'll look into the feature of the silent round, where we can optionally use the microphone to check if players are respecting the silence during that round. So that would be neat to add that as well. And it's currently in test for iOS. So it's a universal app, so both iPhone and iPad. And then we'll be ready to convert it also to Android, and also universal, so smartphone and tablet.
Which I love the fact that you're supporting Android. Far too many places only support iOS, which gets annoying for us Android owners.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, and we appreciate that as well. We were very happy the developer we had for our baseball highlights game was able to do both platforms. So, yeah, it's huge. One of the things, too, one of the themes that I hope is coming through with this is people don't hear it in our voices. We're not trying hard enough, maybe. But we all do this for the love of the game. I mean, these guys doing this app, this is all in their own time and their own effort, adding the music in, stuff like that. I mean, that's because they just love their game and they really want it to be something special for folks. And that's why we design games with a high production quality value. Because we want people to really tactily enjoy board games. Board games aren't like video games. I mean, you're handling the stuff. You got it right in front of you, and that's it's important that it works right and that it feels right and it looks right and plays enhanced because of it. So at any rate, Tabletopia, another great experience. We love Tabletopia, and when we gave them all the files and everything and told them what we wanted to do, they came back and said, we can't do the rotation. We can't do it. So at this point, we don't have an implementation on Tabletopia, but I just got an email this morning saying, you know what, our programmers got interested. They're going to develop so they can do these 60-degree rotations and stuff, so we will be able to implement it. I don't have a timeline yet. They're usually pretty fast, so I've got my fingers crossed that we'll have it before the Kickstarter's over, but I can't promise that. But that's why I love these guys. They're real go-getters, and I think they have a lot of passion in their hearts, too. So I really appreciate that they came back and said they're going to try. So we'll see what happens.
And the Tabletopia app there is going to be free to download, as well as you guys have a copy of the...
Yeah, we're doing it as a free... We have a free demo of it. You can already download the rule book, but Tabletopia is a sandbox environment, so it just provides you the tools to play the game, and then you have to know how to play. So you have to know how to move the pieces and how to run the turns and all that kind of stuff, which you have from the rule book. So we will provide it for time as a free demo for people to look at. And Tabletopia has their own model for subscriptions. So eventually it'll go into the subscription model that they have. So you'll still be able to play it, but at least one person has to have a subscription, which I think is $10 a month. They can invite as many people as they want to join in the game. So usually, you play through the fun.
That's actually what I was going to hint at. Usually with games on Tabletopia, someone has to own a copy to know the rules and everything, to know how to play, to show the other players. And that's what I was starting to get at, is you have the rule book available for download, so how is that going to work? But you kind of answered that for me.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about earlier how the game kind of changed from a steampunk post-war theme up to the sci-fi theme. Who was responsible for the changes in the artwork? Was that kind of a team-based thing, or did one person come up with the idea or the theme to change too?
Well, graphically, we hired a friend of ours here located in Belgium. So it was easy to brainstorm about it back and forth. And Eagle-Gryphon gave us a lot of freedom in what we wanted to see in the game. And they contributed accordingly. But most of the time, we just could do what we want. They felt we knew the game best. And so we did it with a friend here locally, and it turned out really good and attractive.
And one of the things in the development of this game is one of the people that worked for Eagle-Gryphon Game, who was original project manager for it, left the company kind of midstream, and that's when I came on board. And so, there were certain things that just needed to be attended to at that point, just to make sure we could get this into production, because it was kind of languishing, obviously, when you lose a project manager. So we got it back up to steam, and the artwork is just outstanding. I love the rooms, and I love the figures, and the artwork in the rule book, as you'll see too, and on the box is all fantastic. So we love working with artists. I have a theater background, so I love collaborative things like this, where you work with playwrights and designers. When in this case, it's game designers and artists of various types that all contribute to the game. So that was a fun process.
I love the way they turned out. What are they, Loctay? I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. The scientists are really cool looking figures. And I can't remember which one of you it was talking about before we started here, was the Minotaurs, which, despite not looking like a Minotaur, they are supposed to be aliens. So,
yeah. Well, the story behind it is that this is a space prison where they do genetic experiments, and so there are mutants running through the corridors also that you might run into, that they use as guards and whatnot. And so they aren't literally minotaurs, but they are in the sense of being mutants in a labyrinth. So it's more not a direct minotaur reference, but we're using that Ariadne's thread and the Theseus device, which is the computer that computes how the rings are going to rotate and how the guards are going to move and stuff, that you have to decipher and figure out. So we figured all of this out. So it's kind of got that Daedalus effect going on. So that's the background story, which is the story on the front of the rule book.
And you guys you said, I'm trying to remember who said it. I'm terrible with names. Earlier on, somebody was saying that they'd come up with 5 or 6 different actual background stories for the game, and this is the final one we went through. What other type of themes were there on some of the other stories?
We have the post-war stuff, which we started with. Then we had something underwater with a sea lab.
Yeah, with, something like some Bioshock, like, if you know the game.
Yeah, with creatures under high pressure that were evolving and took over an underwater laboratory. And then there was another the one with with the sentient robots.
Yeah. Well, it was post-apocalyptic. It was a post-apocalyptic world with sentient robots, and that one was a popular thing as well. But eventually we went to space. Yeah. We do have a reoccurring joke where we say you're in a rotating shopping mall and you're all boyfriends trying to escape your wives and girlfriends by finding the exit.
Yeah, or you're in we also had the one in a club, in a nightclub, and we all took drugs, and that's why the board seems to rotate. But actually, we're just high.
It was zombie theme though.
No,
No.
That's a pretty
That was
played out
zombie.
genre anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That is it. It sells really well when you look at it, but that's zombies are everywhere nowadays, thanks to The Walking Dead, I guess.
One thing I'd like to mention while we're still on the theme and artwork and things, there was a forum thread on Board Game Geek way back before the Kickstarter even started. There was an issue over some of the artwork.
Oh,
And people gave a bad rating, and there was a whole ordeal over that. So just want people to know, don't judge a game by ratings that hasn't even come out yet for people to play.
yeah, that's what we said as well, and it really got to me, and I took it very personal. But yeah, you can't please everyone.
Yeah. Also,
escalated
until there's
quickly.
a certain number of ratings, BGG has a thing that kind of keeps it tamped down, so you can't really affect the rating a whole lot with the first several hundred ratings. It's got to get more ratings than that before it really moves into a reality zone.
And the funny part about that whole thing is it was all a misunderstanding over one of the character models where she's wearing like a gold bodysuit, and they thought she was naked. And
Yeah.
apparently they're just colorblind because gold is not a flesh tone.
No, indeed.
So I just thought that was kind of funny and worth mentioning in here.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
It was
you.
funny
Yeah,
at
it was-
first when we first saw it, but then it became it became viral, and we suddenly had 300 posts discussing on the shadow angle on the nipple and stuff like that. But we're glad that's over. We learned a valuable lesson there.
Yeah, never go into discussion ever.
Never ever.
But
Never.
at any rate, we'll be posting a lot more stuff. I think these guys have a great story about their meeting with Vlad and Javatel when they were at Spiel and other things like that. So, stay tuned.
I'm looking forward to seeing some actual models of the prototype or the real board instead of the prototype one that we've seen pictures of already too.
Yeah, we don't have one in hand yet. We've got an intermediate stage one, but it's got so many things that aren't right about it. We don't really want to show that one because it just creates more questions. So as soon as we get a final prototype board, we'll be happy. We'll happy to show it. I mean, we know enough from the earlier prototypes that it's going to work correctly. They wanted to reinforce it a little bit just to make sure it's durable enough, and it was pretty durable as it was, but this is the way that our factory is. They really do quality work. So as soon as we have one, we'll be happy to show it, but we don't have that yet.
I'm kind of way out of order with this one, but I noticed that there's 54 room tiles for the board, but I think there's only 40 some slots on the board, which means there's going to be a different board every time you play because not every room is going to be into play.
Exactly. When you start the game, you have the 3 outer rings. They have 2 extra tiles, and 4 of those have a randomizer icon. So you shuffle those at the beginning of the game, and then you select 2 face down, so that even when you have the last tile not discovered, and for example, a player has played this game a million times, he can't know for sure what tile it is.
Right. And the way that works is there in the, let's say, the base set of tiles, there are tiles with the randomizer tokens on it, as well as 2 extra ones. So those 4 get shuffled together. And so out of 4, it's 2 that'll be used. So that makes it different every time. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's great.
And that's something you could always, I'm not sure how it would lend itself to this game, but it's something you could think about for maybe an expansion later on to add extra room tiles and things like that.
Well,
thought
we ourselves see potential in reusing the board below. The plastic board. There's a lot of things we can do with it later on. Well, that's my personal opinion about it. We could do reteams or stuff like that, but we're focusing now on this game to make that work.
I wasn't sure if you had thoughts for expansions or the future of the game once it had been released.
No, I'm speaking for myself. That's something I was thinking about. Like, we could do rethemes or something about it, but that will all depend on the success of the game. Maybe it would be fun for people that already have the board to do, but like I said, that's something I personally thought of. There's definitely no definitive or even talks about it.
Right. At this stage, yeah, we do not have anything else planned. It is complete as it is.
Exactly.
Well, it's already been, what has it been, 24, 48 hours or so since the Kickstarter started now? I'm not positive on what day it started. But you've already been back. You've already reached your goal, which was pretty low by normal Kickstarter standards. I was kind of impressed by that as well. So the game's already going to happen. The backers are already going to get their copies. And then it's going to retail sometime after that. But do you guys have any closing things you'd like to say to the people out there to get them to Kickstart? We're going to get this podcast up before the Kickstarter's over so people can go check it out. And I'm going to put a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes down at the bottom.
Well, we certainly thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and go through all this. It's a real honor to get to talk about it and let people know. And yeah, we really believe in the game, and we think it's going to be fantastic. And we couldn't be happier for our new designers, and they're certainly quite excited. If you saw the update for the celebration they held for themselves, it was quite a picture there. That was Tom and Ian, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we were shooting some video when we decided to get out the party hats.
Just your typical day at the office. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hats, glasses, all sorts of things going on.
Oh, there were a lot of other things that weren't featured in the picture, but yeah, we'll spare you the details.
Yeah, well, all we'll say is that, if it sounds like it's a game you'd be interested in, check out the Kickstarter, and we'd love to have you join us.
And you mentioned on Board Game Geek, I think that you're going to be putting up some gameplay videos soon, so people can check those out as well.
Yeah, we shot them yesterday. I'm editing them at the moment, so I'm hoping somewhere this week we can post them. It's going to look very amateuristic because this is the first time we do it, but we hope that it shows the game, shows some tactics, really some rounds, how you play it, so that it can convince people what a fun game it is.
Yeah, and we don't have a plastic board to put the location tiles in either, so we can't really cover that mechanic. It's purely about the gameplay. But Eagle-Gryphon will probably post a video to show how that mechanism works, the rotating of the location tiles and the flipping of the location tiles.
Yeah, well, again, if Tabletopia can get it done for us, that's the most likely situation. Or if we can get a final production copy of the board and tiles, we might be able to. So we'll see how that shakes out. I mean, that's one of the nature of Kickstarter, is that we're promoting something we haven't made yet. I mean, we've done the artwork for it. We've got a lot of things planned for it, and it's all coming together. The figures, the molds, all of that's we're well along the way, but we don't have everything put together yet. So we're doing our best.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up, I think, for this episode about the Daedalus Sentence. Check out the game if it looks like something you're interested in, and get in on that Kickstarter so you can not only get your discounted copy, but show these guys some support for their game and help get them produced. Do you have any idea about when it's going to be delivered? I know it's way off still.
Well, in the Kickstarter, and I wrote it, now it's blanking on my head, what we put in there.
I think I can look it up real quick. I have the page.
I think,
I have it up
October,
too. Yeah, October
2016.
So we're hoping to have it by Spiel, but it depends on getting a final few things to the factory so that they can get it produced and shipped in August. So, but yes, we plan to have it, and we've been very close to on schedule with almost all the Kickstarters we've done. We've done over 50 Kickstarters now, and almost all of them on time or within a month. And this one is certainly well on its way to meeting that record. So,
And usually there's a big push on Kickstarter the last few hours of them too. So curious to see where this one finishes off as far as your goals.
that's true for all of us here.
Same
We
for me.
can't wait.
But I already put mine in, so I'm one of the backers on there. And I think we've gotten another 10 backers just while we were recording this. So
Yeah, we hit over 24,000. So before it was still 23,000. So indeed, we've gained a couple.
Yeah, we're at 257 backers now, which it's modest, but it's an expensive game. So we're well pleased that it's doing well.
sadly, with the
Thanks for
limited
back-
production, it seems like one of those games that once it's out and people have played it and seen it, that more interest is going to be generated. And you said you're making them in limited quantities, so it's going to be really hard to get after the Kickstarter, which is part of the reason I backed it.
Right. Well, that's what we're saying. And certainly at the price that you're getting it at, you won't see afterwards. We did this with Dawn, Rise of the Oculites, which did very well. And, if the game takes on enough, there's always a chance down the road of something, but it's not something we have planned at this time. It will depend on a lot of factors.
So definitely, if you're interested, check out the Kickstarter and get in on it now to get that discounted copy, to get them their support, bump those numbers up. And like I said, I think it's one of those games you're going to see somebody playing in the game store later on and either play their copy or just watch someone play, and you're going to be really interested in it, and it's going to be harder for you to get at that point. So definitely get it sooner than later.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Bill.
All right. You guys have any closing things you want to say before we sign off here?
No, just thanks for having us on the show. And thanks for backing.
Exactly. I concur.
Yes. Thanks, Bill.
Well, thanks for coming on here on such short notice, and best of luck to you on your game, and I can't wait to try it out.
We neither.
Same here.
Thanks again for joining us and listening to this episode of Game On. As always, feel free to contact me with any questions, comments, or suggestions. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can always reach me by my email at trueflight_eq2@yahoo.com. We'll see you in a couple weeks for the next episode. Until then, game on and have fun.